Hello, everyone. When Sarah Paulson finally sat down for what would become one of the most emotional and eye-opening interviews of her career, no one expected the conversation to turn toward Diane Keaton, the beloved Hollywood icon whose charm, wit, and eccentric brilliance have made her one of the most admired actresses of all time. Yet, as Paulson began to speak, her tone shifted, tender, nostalgic, and filled with a deep respect that made it clear something far more personal was unfolding. For years, fans have speculated about Diane Keaton's mysterious retreat from the spotlight, wondering what truly happened to the Oscar-winning star who defined an era of cinema. And now, through Sarah Paulson's heartfelt revelations, we finally understand the truth about Keaton's disappearance from Hollywood's center stage, her struggles behind closed doors, and the poignant reasons why she chose to live a quieter, more introspective life after decades of brilliance, heartbreak, and unrelenting fame. What Paulson shared was not just an update, it was a window into the soul of a woman who gave everything to her art, only to discover that the most important role she ever played was simply learning to be herself. To understand why Sarah Paulson's words carried such weight, you have to remember how Diane Keaton built her career, with a fearless originality that made her both a Hollywood darling and an enigma. From her breakout role in The Godfather to her timeless charm in Annie Hall, Manhattan, and Something's Gotta Give, Keaton became a symbol of wit, vulnerability, and style. She wasn't just an actress, she was a cultural movement, redefining femininity on her own terms. But behind the turtlenecks, hats, and wide-brimmed smiles was a woman deeply sensitive to the world around her, someone who wrestled with loneliness, self-doubt, and a longing for something lasting in an industry built on impermanence. As Sarah Paulson explained, Diane never wanted to play the game. She just wanted to tell the truth through her characters. But after a while, that truth got heavy. She needed to breathe again. Sarah Paulson, known for her own fearless roles and long-standing admiration for Keaton, first met her years ago at an awards event. What began as a brief encounter blossomed into a genuine friendship built on shared creative passion and mutual respect. Diane wasn't just a legend to me, Paulson revealed. She was a mentor, a soul I could trust. She saw through the noise over the years. As Keaton began stepping away from major roles, Paulson was one of the few who remained in close contact. She recalls that Diane's decision to slow down wasn't sudden. It was gradual, born out of exhaustion, reflection, and a desire to live authentically away from the glare of cameras. Diane told me that after 50 years in this business, she wanted to stop pretending she was okay when she wasn't. Sarah confessed. She said she wanted to learn how to be Diane, not the actress, not the star, but the woman who still had dreams that didn't involve red carpets. Paulson shared that one of the most heartbreaking yet beautiful moments between them came during a quiet afternoon in Los Angeles, when Diane opened up about her fears of aging and legacy. She looked at me and said, "Sarah, people think I'm fearless, but I'm not. I'm terrified of being forgotten, and I'm equally terrified of being remembered only for the wrong things." Those words haunted Sarah for years because they revealed just how human Keaton really was beneath her iconic image. Despite her legendary status, Keaton always wrestled with the same insecurities that plague many artists: the pressure to stay relevant, the anxiety of time slipping away, and the bittersweet realization that fame doesn't shield you from loneliness. What Paulson also revealed, for the first time publicly, is that Diane Keaton has been quietly battling health challenges, not life-threatening, but ones that have significantly affected her energy and mental well-being. She was dealing with a kind of fatigue that wasn't just physical, Sarah said softly. She said it was emotional exhaustion, decades of giving everything to everyone else and realizing she had very little left for herself. In recent years, Keaton reportedly began experiencing memory lapses and periods of deep introspection, which made her rethink her pace of life. She told me she didn't want to be the woman who forgot her own lines or who smiled for cameras when her heart wasn't in it. She wanted to step away before the world decided for her. Paulson explained that Keaton's retreat wasn't about sadness or defeat, but about rediscovering peace. Diane is living quietly now, surrounded by the things she loves: her family, her art, her photography, her books. She still laughs every day. She still wears her hats and oversized suits. But she's no longer trying to prove anything. She's just being. In fact, Diane has been spending more time with her adopted children, Dexter and Duke, focusing on family in a way she never had time for during her busiest years. She once told me that motherhood saved her from herself, Paulson said. She said, "For the first time, I had someone to love who didn't want me to perform. They just wanted me to be mom." Those who've seen Diane in recent months describe her as reflective, serene, and deeply spiritual, a woman who has made peace with the past, but still feels immense gratitude for the life she's lived. "She's not hiding," Sarah clarified. "She's healing." Keaton spends her mornings painting, tending her garden, and writing letters, yes, handwritten letters, to people who have touched her life, from old co-stars to longtime friends. One such letter reportedly made its way to Sarah herself. She wrote, "Sarah, you remind me that truth never goes out of style. Promise me you'll never stop telling it." That line, Paulson admitted, brought her to tears. Sarah Paulson went on to explain that Diane's choice to live privately has also become a quiet act of rebellion in a culture obsessed with visibility. She's teaching all of us that it's okay to step away. It's okay to say, "I've done enough." That's not giving up. That's wisdom. Diane has long been outspoken about the pressures of Hollywood's beauty standards and the unrealistic expectations placed on women as they age. She once famously said, "I've never been a beauty, and that's been my blessing. I never had to worry about losing it." But as Paulson reflected, that's classic Diane, turning pain into poetry. She always found light in the darkness. In their last conversation, Paulson shared that Diane expressed both gratitude and uncertainty. She said, "If this is my last chapter, I want it to be quiet. I want people to remember that I lived a full life, not just a famous one." Sarah paused during the interview, clearly emotional, before adding, "And I told her, 'You'll never be forgotten, Diane. You're too loved for that.'" That statement echoed across social media, with fans flooding comment sections to share how Diane Keaton's roles had shaped their lives, from inspiring independent women to teaching generations that vulnerability is strength. What makes this story so moving isn't just that a younger star is honoring a Hollywood legend. It's that Sarah Paulson's revelation reminds us all of what happens when the spotlight fades and humanity steps forward. Diane Keaton's story is not one of tragedy, but of triumph, of a woman who dared to redefine her worth beyond the fame she built. She may not walk the red carpet anymore, but she walks through her days with grace, curiosity, and gratitude, finding joy in the simplicity of ordinary life. Sarah ended her reflections by saying, "Diane taught me that you don't have to burn out to shine. Sometimes the brightest thing you can do is step away, breathe, and just live." And in that moment, the world realized that what happened to Diane Keaton wasn't a disappearance. It was an awakening. She chose peace over pressure, authenticity over applause, and love over legacy. And perhaps that's why the story of Diane Keaton continues to captivate us. Because in a world that demands we perform endlessly, she reminded us that it's okay to rest, to reflect, and to simply exist as we are. So when Sarah Paulson finally revealed what happened to Diane Keaton, she wasn't telling a sad story of a fallen star. She was sharing the final act of a woman who wrote her own ending. And like every role Keaton ever played, it's honest, imperfect, deeply human, and absolutely unforgettable. Thanks for watching.